So today we're going to talk about how you take care of your bow. So one of the first things that you want to make sure and do is be really careful of this stuff right here. So this is horsehair, and it's got some special properties. One of the things, because of those special properties, that we want to make sure as best as we can ever do is not to actually touch the hair. And that's because there's oils in our skin that then get onto the hairs, which cause dust, dirt, and grime to stick to the hairs, which then makes it so that rosin can't stick. Which brings us actually to the next point, which is you do want to rosin regularly. What you do to rosin up your bow is you take your rosin and you make sure that your bow is tightened up, and what you do is you stick it on the rosin, the hairs, and you pull back and forth. Now, rosin itself is kind of fragile, so you also want to be very careful with your rosin, because if you drop it, it's very likely for it to shatter, and it makes a huge mess. It's not very pleasant to clean up a broken rosin. So the other thing that we want to do is make sure when you're playing, you want to use this right here, and when we're pulling it out of the case, we're going to tighten by turning it clockwise, and the point at which it's tightened enough is about here. There's still some bend inwards so that the hair and the stick are kind of closer together in the middle. You never want to see the stick totally straight, and you never want to see it sticking a bow outwards like that, because that means it's going to be too tight. And what that'll do with your hair is it'll stretch it so tight that it'll start to either break the hair a little bit, or it'll just get too stretched out and you have to replace the hairs. The other thing that it can do is cause warpage in your bow, on the back side of your bow there. When you're done playing with your bow, you also want to loosen it back up. And that's because, again, the hairs are stretchy. And so if you leave them stretched out in your case, then they're going to get too stretched out, and eventually you have to replace them. The other bigger reason is that the back side of your bow, the wood part, can actually get warped and change shape, and it makes it really hard to play if you have a warped bow. So you take this and you turn it counterclockwise. That loosens it up. It kind of looks a little strange because it'll actually make the hairs go closer to the stick. But if you were to feel, I'm going to do this on the back of my nail so you can see this, you'd see them kind of a little bit looser, a little less stretchy right there. Now, one of the things when we loosen it, we don't want to do is loosen it so much that we start to see the hairs kind of flopping around a little bit, because that means when you put it in the case, they're not going to be quite strong enough if you pull the bow and some hairs get caught, it'll actually rip some hairs out sometimes. So I like to make sure that it's just barely tightened, just past that point of being floppy. Finally, just some, general safety things with the bow. To be careful with it, be cautious. Don't be whacking stuff with it. Don't be sword fighting or horse playing with it. Try not to drop it either, as that can cause some damage to it. So yeah, just be careful to take good care of your bow.